Tonight, jailed and told he should be deported. The rapist starting a 9-year sentence after targeting a stranger as she took a shortcut in Glasgow city centre following a night out. Also making the headlines, one of Scotland's largest health boards says it's facing a funding gap of more than £140 million by the end of the decade. Scotland's first commercial wind farm is supercharged 30 years after the first turbines turned. And in sport, as the Scotland squad fly out for their training camp, Billy Gilmore is ruled out of the World Cup qualifier against Greece. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. She was a doctor taking a shortcut after a night out in Glasgow city centre when she was attacked and subjected to a 40-minute sexual assault by a stranger. Today, that man, Mihai Patron, is starting a 9-year jail term after being found guilty of sex offences, including rape, against 3 women in just over a month. Branded a dangerous man and a danger to women, the judge said he hoped he would be deported. Ollie Dickinson has more.
It's almost 6 a.m. on the 26th of November 2023. CCTV footage captures a man, Mihai Patron, wandering down Mitchell Street in Glasgow city centre. Moments later, the Romanian would go on to block a young woman in a doorway and rape her. The 27-year-old doctor, who was a stranger to Patron, eventually escaped, partially clothed, to the safety of a taxi. Patron, who had no permanent address, was arrested and charged. It was only then it emerged that just weeks earlier he had indecently exposed himself to a teenager on a train between Perth and Stirling. CCTV once again capturing the moments before he struck. Patron then went on to sexually assault a female prison officer who was handcuffed to him whilst in the dock at Glasgow Sheriff Court. At his trial at the High Court in Glasgow, he had denied all of the charges against him, claiming the woman he had attacked in Mitchell Street had consented to having sex with him. The jury did not believe him and found him guilty of all 3 counts. Sentencing Patron today to 9 years in prison, Judge Norman McFadden said, "You are a dangerous man and a danger to women. It is hoped you will be removed or deported from the country at the earliest opportunity. Should Patron not be removed, he will be supervised for a further 3 years upon his release from prison." Ollie Dickinson, STV News at the High Court in Glasgow.
The Scottish Labour leader has accused the SNP government of being economically illiterate as he launched a report aimed at boosting growth. Anna Sarwar claimed Hollywood has failed to maximise the opportunities of devolution by focusing too much on social policy rather than the economy. However, the First Minister warned the UK Labour government would punish Scotland's finances if it raises income tax for the rest of the UK. Here's our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie.
6 months out from polling day, positioning in the Scottish election campaign is already underway. This morning, Labour's focus was the economy. The launch of an independent report the party commissioned from the former principal of Glasgow University.
The report's message is really very simple. Economic growth must become a shared national mission. By putting growth back at a central government, empowering our regions, investing in skills and innovation, reforming our economic institutions and aligning with UK partners, Scotland can build a stronger, fairer economy for the next generation.
The proposals include devolving greater powers around the country and creating a cabinet subcommittee focused on driving growth. But ahead of the UK budget, Anna Sarwar steered clear of speculation the Chancellor will raise income tax in the rest of the UK. Instead, he accused the First Minister of overseeing a £1 billion growth gap by failing to focus on the economy.
This is an economically illiterate SNP government that doesn't understand the economy, doesn't understand growth, and that's why we need a change in 6 months' time.
So you wouldn't increase income tax in Scotland. How would you cover any shortfall then, if that were to happen down south?
We've got to. So I'm not going to speculate on the budget.
I'm not asking you to, but how would you cover a shortfall?
So one, we've got to not speculate on the budget. We've got to see the decisions that come in a few weeks' time. But we've got to stop the waste, spend people's money well. That's £5.2 billion of additional money that's been squandered by the SNP. Where's the tangible benefits to people?
The First Minister was in Edinburgh, marking a record 4,000 firms paying staff the real living wage. John Swinney insists the SNP has anchored economic growth at the heart of its programme.
The argument about increasing tax, which is an approach the Scottish Government has taken for higher earners, has always been about investing in our public services. And that's the argument for increasing taxes in a particular way to make sure that we can secure investment in our public services. Now, what the UK Labour Government is doing is potentially increasing taxes to fill a black hole of their own making.
Anna Sarwar says he's determined to do government differently.
Thank you so much.
The Chancellor's budget decisions in just over 2 weeks will determine the tone of the economic debate for the election campaign. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
One of Scotland's biggest health boards says it faces a funding gap of more than £140 million by the end of the decade. In its annual review, NHS Lothian says it will continue to find more efficient ways of delivering services, as it warns the coming years will bring significant financial pressures. Well, our senior reporter Gordon Cree was at today's meeting. Gordon, what's behind this?
Kellyanne, this is the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh, NHS Lothian's flagship hospital. The Health Board already provides services to a population of around 850,000 and some to people from beyond its immediate area. Now, this year it met its budget. It found savings of £60 million and didn't need additional help from the Scottish Government. And it expects a similar picture in the coming years, but says that there are bigger challenges beyond that. Now, part of that is a growing population. This region is expected to see around 40% of Scotland's total population growth in the years to come, and the demographics are getting older with the added pressures that brings for health and social care. And all of that is why they say they need to reform the way things are done.
The NHS would always love more money, but we have to be realistic, and that's why innovation, reform, doing things more efficiently, chasing productivity, ensuring that we have the latest clinical facilities available to be as efficient as possible is really important. But we also need to plan ahead more effectively, and that means taking a longer term view, probably moving out with that electoral cycle of 5 years and taking a 10, 20, 30-year view in terms of how we need to arrange services in the future. So that's the secret.
And Gordon, was there any word on the recent concerns over maternity services?
Well, you remember last week we told you about the critical report from Healthcare Improvement Scotland into the maternity unit at the Royal. Today, the chairman underlined that improvement work is underway, including the recruiting of 70 more midwives. He said he hoped that by next year's review, they would be providing an exemplary service. Looking at the big picture, the review underlined that work to prevent illness will be an increasing part of things in years to come, as they hope to avoid the population becoming sicker as well as older. Kellyanne.
All right, Gordon, from Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, thank you very much. A serving police officer has admitted taking home 6 shotguns and other weapons which had been surrendered to him. Alan Sharp was a constable in the Firearms and Explosive Licensing Department when he was caught after a search of the family home in 2022. Sharp, who'd been a police officer since 2001, pled guilty to 3 charges under the Firearms Act at the High Court in Glasgow. The 52-year-old was remanded in custody and the case was adjourned until December. The Crown Office says an inquiry into a fatal train derailment may only last 2 weeks. Driver Brett McCulloch, conductor Donald Dinney and passenger Christopher Stutchbury all died when a train hit a landslide at Carmont in August 2020. A hearing was told evidence could be completed far sooner than previously estimated. A location for the fatal accident inquiry, which is due to start in January, is yet to be confirmed. Cancer Research UK is calling for the Scottish Government to introduce a nationwide screening programme for lung cancer. The charity has revealed more than 2/3 of cases are diagnosed at a later stage when treatment is less likely to be successful. The Scottish Government says it's committed to a lung screening pilot as the first step to national rollout. The SNP has taken control of Stirling Council following a by-election victory in the area. Labour had run the local authority as a minority administration since 2022. However, a deal with Green and independent councillors means the SNP will now form an administration with Susan McGill becoming council leader. Now, when it opened in 1995, Hagshaw Hill Wind Farm was the first of its kind for Scotland. 30 years on and hundreds of similar sites now operate around the country. Following major upgrades, those original turbines have now been replaced with the aim to deliver 5 times more energy. Tara Fitzpatrick visited the South Lanarkshire site to learn more.
It was the start of Scotland's wind revolution.
Scotland's first commercially run wind farm began generating electricity onto the national grid for the first time today.
But now the 26 wind turbines which dominated this Lanark landscape have been replaced, making way for a new generation of wind power.
This is a real historic day for renewables and wind energy in Scotland. The fact that we can get 5 times the power from a single turbine than we first built this site, and we can see that as a model we can roll out across Scotland. We looked at a number of projects will come to their natural end.
The number of turbines on the site has dropped to just over half, but the new ones will be up to 4 times larger and able to harness 5 times the energy, enough to power the equivalent of 57,000 homes. Wind energy is at the forefront of the Scottish Government's plans to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. But all wind turbines, like those here on Hagshaw Hill, will eventually need replacing, and finding ways to recycle the old blades is proving a global challenge.
We're not just repurposing wind turbine blades, we're revolutionising...
Each blade on the Hagshaw Hill turbines is now being recycled by plastics company Plaswire and repurposed into construction materials.
This is something very new. This is an example of a timber post we manufacture. We can include around about 30% wind blade into this product, which makes it extremely durable, outlasts timber by 3 times. So we have at least a 30-year life with this product.
Onshore wind and Scotland are success stories. We have backed onshore wind in Scotland for very many years now, as Hagshaw demonstrates. The fact that we're now repowering Scotland's first commercial wind farm demonstrates the longevity of the industry, the contribution that it's making to Scotland's energy mix, and that there's still a long way to go, and that we want to see it continue to develop.
As the power output ramps up, local residents are set to receive an uplift from the site's Community Benefit Fund, which Scottish Power Renewables say will deliver nearly £400,000 annually.
We've got 30 years now of this money, and it's a fair amount of money. So yeah, we're hoping that we can maybe look at housing and create new housing and give housing benefit for the local community. We're hoping that we can look at, we've got golf clubs, we've got swimming pools, and we need to sustain those, and we need to keep those in the community.
In the time since this site was built, hundreds of wind farms now operate around the country. It's hoped its upgrades will represent the blueprint for their future. Tara Fitzpatrick, STV News, South Lanarkshire.
A 51-year-old has appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court accused of an ammonia attack on a woman in the city centre on Saturday evening. Gwen Dempster allegedly assaulted the 46-year-old on Buchanan Street by throwing the substance at her just before 6:30. Dempster is also charged with possession of a quantity of ammonia in a public place, providing false details to the police and behaving in a threatening and abusive manner. She made no plea and was remanded in custody. A home bargain store in Mulgai has been closed today after a car with a learner plate crashed into the shop front. Emergency services were called just after 11 a.m. to West Park after the vehicle went through the front window. 2 people were checked over by the ambulance service but did not need hospital treatment. A 38-year-old man has been charged following an alleged disturbance at a property in Ayrshire. Emergency services were called to Cathkin Place in Kilwinning early this morning. The man will appear at Kilmarnock Sheriff Court tomorrow. Specialist officers were also in attendance. No one was injured and inquiries into the incident are ongoing. Now, a new survey has found that about 1 in 3 people don't have faith in Glasgow City Council. The household survey, which gauges the city's residents on its services, highlights key areas of concern people have, in which they say the council is not addressing adequately. With more, here's Rahim Cham.
It is Scotland's largest local authority, but trust in Glasgow City Council has plummeted. Many Glaswegians say they are dissatisfied with how their city is being run, citing a range of concerns.
What areas do you think they should prioritise their money on?
Roads. The roads are terrible. Potholes. The cars are getting damaged right, left and centre.
Do you trust the council?
I know. In some ways I do, but I feel like it's a lot of waffle sometimes. It's saying the right things to try and appease people, but you see the state of the place, it's not exactly appealing in here anymore to come in the town and do any shopping or spend any time in here, so...
Far too many homeless on the streets, and the roads are an absolute disgrace as well, so yeah.
I would say trying to sort of clean up the streets mostly, and then maybe maybe the homeless, especially when it comes into winter time. It's awful when you're walking down the street and you see them.
Homelessness has always been a problem in Glasgow. Not necessarily, it's really bad just now because of various things happening. But in general, there's always a bit of homelessness.
According to the latest household survey conducted by the council, only 4 in 10 residents say they have faith in the council. When it comes to road maintenance, only 15% say they are happy. And less than half of residents think street cleaning is up to standard. And 43% say they are unhappy with how the council is tackling issues that affect their overall quality of life. A council spokesperson told STV News the council values feedback from citizens, and it is important that officials and elected members understand these views as they make decisions.
Glasgow's Avenues project is investing over £100 million to give the city its much-needed facelift, an urban regeneration that will address some of its infrastructural issues. But the household survey highlights that residents have much more concerns, such as trust in the council. Together, these findings paint a picture of a city under strain, where basic services are falling short and confidence in the council is slipping fast. Rahim Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
OK, time to get all your sport now with Rahman. And Rahman, it's not good news on the Scotland front, is it?
Afraid so, Kellyanne. Scotland are obviously desperate to end their long wait to qualify for a World Cup. 2 massive games coming up against Greece, then Denmark, but it looks like a key player is going to miss both games.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday sale.
Good evening. Billy Gilmore has been ruled out of Scotland's World Cup qualifier against Greece through injury, and we understand the midfielder is unlikely to be available for the clash against Denmark. Len Miller and Ross McCrory will definitely miss both matches. Rangers midfielder Conor Barron and West Ham's Andy Irving have been called up and were amongst the group that gathered in Glasgow before flying to Turkey for a 4-day training camp. In all likelihood, Scotland need to secure a draw in Athens on Saturday, then defeat Denmark at Hampden 3 days later to qualify as group winners for next year's tournament. Martin O'Neill says he expects clarity on his future by the end of this week. O'Neill was appointed Celtic interim manager following Brendan Rodgers' resignation a fortnight ago. Well, following Celtic's 4-0 win over Kilmarnock and Hearts' draw against Dundee United, the Gorgie side's lead at the summit of the Premiership has been cut to 7 points. Derek McInnes admits his team had an off day against Dundee United on Saturday, but having secured 30 points from a possible 36 while remaining unbeaten after 12 league games, Hearts' report card reads very good. The Gorgy side took the lead at Tynecastle courtesy of an own goal from Yevgeny Kucherenko. On the stroke of half-time, an unmarked Lucas Stevenson could pick his spot. He went for bottom left, 1-1. Having picked up his 6th booking in the Premiership, Craig Halkett is suspended for Hearts' next game away to Aberdeen. Will he or won't he be in the Parkhead dugout when the Premiership resumes after the international break? That's the question Celtic fans are asking about Martin O'Neill. Yesterday, O'Neill watched his team put 4 past Kilmarnock without reply, with Johnny Kenny, Kieran Tierney, Daizan Maeda and Arnie Engels scoring. Marcelo Sarachi has joined Alistair Johnson and Callum Osmond on the sidelines, with Johnson and Osmond requiring surgery. It was free and easy for Rangers against Dundee at Dens Park yesterday. Nicola Raskant opened the scoring with a header. His celebration, well, that may be a head-scratcher for some. That was in the 5th minute. Soon after, it was 2-0. Mikey Moore with his first goal for the club. The visitors saved the best until last. Jiri Gisama with a fine finish in the 90th minute. That's 3 league wins in a row for the Ibrox club under Danny Rule. Rule is forming a strong bond with the Rangers supporters. And after going a goal down against Aberdeen, Elijah Just earned Motherwell a point at Pittodrie. David Gray admits decisions went in favour of Hibs during their 3-0 win over St Mirren on Saturday. Marcus Fraser thought he'd put the Saints 1-up in the 5th minute, but his goal was disallowed for offside following a controversial VAR call. Hibs took the lead midway through the first half through Josh Mulligan before Chris Cadden and Miguel Chaiwa scored in the second period. Falkirk remain 4th following their 1-1 draw against Livingston after Brian Graham netted for the hosts from the spot. Danny Wilson equalised in the 89th minute. To rugby, and Grant Gilchrist says Scotland showed their quality against the All Blacks at Murrayfield on Saturday, but admits the next step has to be winning close games against the world's best. New Zealand recovered from the Scots' onslaught to win 25-17, and Gregor Townsend says his team will take their lessons into next year's Six Nations. Here's Jamie Borthwick.
A tale of a missed chance at one end and one taken at the other. A stirring fight back from Scotland, but ultimately a familiar final result.
You don't get the opportunity to win these games. You don't get to 17 all at 70 minutes unless you're a good team. That's the next step for us. I think the fact that we can go 17-0 down, no panic, stick to the game plan, go and grab the game like we did in the second half, like that. That's the bit that shows you're a really good team.
Clinical New Zealand looked to be cruising 17-0 up at half-time before the Scots turned up the heat. With the game tied going into the final 10 minutes, Murrayfield was dreaming of an historic first ever win over the All Blacks before Damien McKenzie's inspired finishing touch.
To concede a try right at half-time and come back and get to 17-all, but also just dominate all facets of play in that 20-25 minute period. It shows what the team's capable of. We just have to make sure that over the next 2 weeks we get to build and grow together. Like, you're only here for a short period of time in November, but that's a very useful game for us for the Six Nations too, against a really quality opposition.
And more quality waits around the corner. Argentina are next up at Murrayfield this Sunday.
We've got a good team to play next week, a team that's beaten New Zealand as well in the Rugby Championship, so we're under no illusion that next week's going to be any easier. So we've got to stay together. We've got 8 days now to prepare and get our bodies and minds right for another tough challenge against Argentina.
120 years have come and gone without Scotland breaking their All Blacks hoodoo. So near yet so far is a phrase these players would gladly never hear again. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
And finally tonight, if you thought the wintry weather in Scotland can be challenging, then take a look at this. Somehow, the Canadian Premier League final went ahead in these conditions, with former Rangers midfielder Fraser Aird playing and scoring for Cavalry. However, his team lost to Atletico Ottawa, with David Rodriguez scoring the spectacular goal, being dubbed the Icicle Kick.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday sale.
And that's the sport for me tonight. Folks, Caroline, see you next time you hear me moaning about covering a game when it's cold. Just remind me of that match.
I will indeed. You've got no excuses now, Ravan.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ravan. All right, well, staying with the weather, and let's get it from Philip. Philip, it is getting cold out there. Not as cold as that, mind you. Please give us some good news.
Well, Kellyanne, not quite snow like you saw there. However, if you like dry, slightly bright, but cold, crisp autumn days, then yes, I have good news for you. But we have to get through a couple of days of rain first. This week has started grey, cloudy, damp and a bit gloomy. However, it has also been quite mild. Temperatures reaching highs of around 10, 11, 12 degrees Celsius. Generally this week we will see some wet and windy conditions up until the middle of the week. We have a warning out for tomorrow, but come Thursday we have high pressure starting to build in and block the bad weather. So things start to settle, but along with that we will see our winds coming in from more of a northerly direction, meaning it will be turning a lot chillier coming the end of the week. And the weekend with temperatures reaching highs of 7 or 8. Let's take a closer look at the forecast.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, as I said, the weather for the rest of this week is remaining changeable and unsettled, with various low-pressure systems pushing in from the Atlantic, keeping things pretty wet and windy over the next couple of days. Come Thursday, that's when we start to see this area of high pressure building in from the north. That puts us into that northerly airflow, dragging in that colder air. So we will see things turning a lot chillier just in time for the weekend. Back to just now as we head throughout this evening. Today's band of rain has cleared away to the northwest. We're still seeing some scattered showers, mainly across the very far west, through the central belt, southern and eastern areas, turning dry, and we will see plenty of clear skies. So with the clear skies, it does mean temperatures will drop away, and we could also see some mist and fog patches forming too, lows of around 1 or 2 degrees Celsius in some rural spots. Looking ahead to tomorrow, by mid-morning, we're already seeing the cloud building from the south, this band of heavy and persistent rain coming through. Our yellow weather warning for that rain comes into effect at 10 a.m. and that runs until midnight tomorrow night. Some pretty heavy, persistent downpours throughout the course of the afternoon could lead to a lot of surface water on the road, so some tricky travel conditions. Looking ahead to Wednesday, a largely cloudy and breezy day to come for many of us, with winds reaching gale force around coastal parts. Still some scattered showers around. The further south we come, the drier it will be, with temperatures reaching highs of around 12 degrees. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
So it's getting colder and colder. Well, look, that's all we have time for this evening, but we're back again tomorrow. From all of us here in the team, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.